So here in the studio with us, we have Republican strategist Laura Carno, Democratic strategist Steve Welchert. This is going just as you planned, Steve.
Well, this is I expected, actually. Look, Joe O'Dea ran a very good campaign in my view, but he had two or three major obstacles he couldn't overcome. Number one, nationally, the Trump crazy campaigns had to be super funded in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, in New Hampshire, in Arizona. By the time they got to Colorado, they were out of money. So he was at a shortstop there. And then the governor's race didn't help him here at all. Heidi Ganahl really brought the ticket down, I think, in a substantial way, and that didn't help O'Dea kind of buoy his own race either. So a couple of major significant obstacles.
Laura, in that race, it seemed to me that the Republican Senatorial Committee was like, let's see if this type of Republican can win now. Anti-Trump, in fact, very vocally said, if he runs, I'm campaigning against him. And is that the answer to the question right now, that kind of Republican can't win right now in a big race?
Well, if you look at the strategy, and I'm not part of the campaign, but if you look at that strategy, that this is not a state that Trump won. Right. So that actually looks like a very smart strategy not to be aligned with Trump. The other thing is that Joe O'Dea is not a rock-ribbed social conservative. He was very moderate on the abortion issue. And so you could look at that and say, we're talking about these suburban women I keep talking about. At the end of the day, when all of the numbers are in, did he pull in some of those suburban women because he was more moderate on social issues? And honestly, this is the one that surprises me, because I thought this was going to be very close.
The result, or how soon we got the result?
Yes, and both. Yeah. Yes, all of that, because the polls were tightening, and it looked like there was momentum in Joe O'Dea's camp from 2 weeks ago polls to a week ago to the very recent ones.
Did he get those suburban women's votes, or did he lose hardcore Trumpsters who just failed to vote on the race at all? We'll find that out in a couple of days.
Hardcore Trumpers and also hardcore pro-life people. Yeah. There are some folks that have been talking about that they can't vote for a pro-choice person, but are those enough to make that difference?
And so in retrospect, was he the right kind of Republican to run against Michael Bennet?
Right. Yeah. I think Deborah Flora, who did very well in the assembly, which was I'll reserve my judgment on the future of the caucus and assembly process on both sides in Colorado. But I think had she been in an actual primary, I think she would probably have been a very strong candidate and would have done very well against Michael Bennet.
O'Dea I was impressed by how disciplined he was as a political newcomer. That's a big stage for a new guy. Let's switch over to the governor's race now. Thoughts on that? I mean, I don't see any great surprise there, either one of you?
Well, look, it was a kitty litter campaign, and that's always a terrible place to be. The furry thing was just crazy. I don't know where that came from, why she decided
Joe Rogan.
But she doubled down on it again a second time before she finally got off it. That didn't help Joe O'Dea either, by the way. I think Joe O'Dea was a great candidate for the Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary Club Republicans. They'll circle back. This is just the wrong cycle for him, perhaps, to run in.
Yeah, and if we look at the history of governors in Colorado being unseated, it hasn't happened for 60 years. And so you can also say maybe Colorado likes its incumbent governors, wants to like its incumbent governors. And it's a tough race. I think this is the one that Republican analysts looked at all along and said, this is going to be our toughest uphill climb. Let's not forget $28 million. Every commercial that came on everybody's TV was a Jared Polis commercial. That's really difficult to overcome when you're looking at folks who aren't us, not talking about politics on a daily basis on purpose. That's how they make their decisions in some of those cases.
Yeah, these were big money races, but also Colorado has this strong independent streak. So it's anybody's guess where all those, especially unaffiliateds now that we know that more and more have joined that party.
That's right. And speaking of all the high spending ads, happy to report they're done.
They are done as of 5 o'clock. Yes. We are happy that
it's not good for the station, though, is it?
It's fine, Steve.
All right, so let's go now to Denver 7's Megan Lopez with more on these numbers that they are, now that we know that some of the races are